Attention passionate Montreal, Canadiens fans. Latest news, something big is happening in the Atlantic Division and it could shake up the entire conference. We're talking about a direct impact on Montreal Canadiens' path to another Stanley Cup run, a power shift that could leave a division rival stumbling for years. We're bringing this to you firsthand. But before that, if you're a true Montreal Canadiens fan, subscribe to the channel to strengthen this passion even more. Show that you're also part of this family. Let's help each other reach 1,000 subscribers. Share with your friends and Montreal Canadiens fans. Let's get to the news. Now folks, if you've been paying close attention to what's been happening with the Montreal Canadiens this offseason, you know it's been an intense period of activity. The Habs, historically one of the most storied franchises in the NHL, are once again trying to position themselves for a serious run. And trust me, the moves they've made so far, combined with the whispers and rumors swirling around, suggest that Montreal isn't done yet. No way. They're still looking to make a few more bold moves, and that has fans buzzing, especially those of us who have been watching this team rebuild with cautious optimism over the past couple of seasons. So, what exactly has happened so far? Well, the Canadiens started their offseason with a bang, making a major move on draft night. They acquired defenseman Noah Dobson from the New York Islanders in a trade that surprised many. Montreal sent out Emil Heineman, a second-round pick from 2020, in exchange for Dobson, who's been a highly regarded young defenseman. Dobson, who's just entering his prime, brings a lot of potential to the Canadiens' blue line. His ability to contribute offensively from the back end, combined with his defensive acumen, makes him a key piece for the Canadiens' future. Since arriving, Dobson has been seen as a cornerstone for the team's defensive core. His skating, hockey IQ, and offensive instincts are exactly what Montreal needs as they try to rebuild a competitive defense. And just 4 days after that blockbuster deal, the Canadiens weren't finished. They made another bold move, sending out Logan Mailloux to the St. Louis Blues. Now, Mailloux was a first-round pick in 2021, but his career in Montreal was disappointing, to say the least. He only played 8 games over 2 seasons, and many fans and analysts considered him a draft bust, struggling to find his footing in the NHL. So, shipping him out for Zachary Bolduc, a player with a lot of potential, makes sense in the bigger picture. Bolduc, a first-rounder in 2021, is a player with a lot of upside, especially as a top-6 center. Montreal is clearly trying to bolster their forward group, especially their top 6, which has been a bit of a sore spot for them in recent years. Now, if you're asking yourself, are the Canadiens done making moves? Well, the answer is a resounding no. Despite the flurry of activity, including these 2 major trades, insiders suggest that Montreal is still looking for more. And here's where the excitement really kicks in. According to some of the most respected voices in the NHL, like Frank Saravalli from Daily Faceoff, Montreal's front office has their eyes set on a bigger prize. Saravalli, who's known for breaking some of the most accurate NHL rumors, recently stated in a podcast that the Canadiens are still trying to acquire Jordan Kyrou from the St. Louis Blues. And that's not just idle chatter, it's a serious possibility. Now, for those of you who might not be fully familiar with Kyrou, he's a 27-year-old winger who has been a key player for the Blues over the past few seasons. He's known for his speed, offensive skill, and his ability to score and create plays. In fact, over the last 3 seasons, Kyrou has scored over 100 goals. That's an impressive stat for any young winger, especially one who's still in the prime of his career. His contract, an 8-year deal worth around $65 million, has a no-trade clause that activates on July 1st, which complicates things a bit. That means Montreal will need to persuade him to come, and the Blues GM, Doug Armstrong, will have to be convinced to part with him. But as we all know in the NHL, big trades aren't easy, and moving a player like Kyrou would require a significant package. And that's where things get really interesting. William Burgett, an NHL analyst from the Hockey Writers, laid out what a potential trade package might look like. He suggests that Montreal might need to include another first-round pick in 2026, after already parting with their 2025 first-rounders for Dobson. They might also need to include a prospect, possibly Michael Hage, a 2024 first-round pick who's been highly regarded since his time at Michigan. But perhaps the most challenging part of the deal is fitting Kyrou's salary under the cap, especially since Montreal is currently about $5 million over the cap. That's where a player like Patrick Lane could come into play. Lane, acquired last offseason, has a cap hit of about $8. $7 million for one more season, and trading him directly to the Blues for Kyrou seems unlikely due to salary cap constraints. However, there's a twist. If Montreal could involve a third team to retain part of Lane's salary or reroute him elsewhere, then a trade could become feasible. Imagine the possibilities. Montreal could send Lane to a team willing to take on some of his contract, and then use the cap space to acquire Kyrou. This kind of multi-team deal isn't unheard of in the NHL, and it's exactly the kind of bold move that Canadiens fans love to see. It's clear that the Canadiens are not just content with the status quo. They're aiming high, and they're willing to make the big swings necessary to elevate this team back into serious Stanley Cup contention. Now, why all this fuss about Jordan Kyrou? Well, aside from his impressive offensive numbers, he fits perfectly into the Canadiens' long-term plan. Montreal has been trying to rebuild their top six forward group, and a player like Kyrou, with his speed, scoring touch, and youth, could be a vital piece in that puzzle. Plus, his style of play complements the emerging core of young talent that the Canadiens have been developing over the past few seasons. Players like Cole Caulfield, Juraj Slavkovsky, and Nick Suzuki can thrive with a winger like Kyrou feeding them the puck and creating offensive opportunities. It's a move that could not only improve the team's immediate competitiveness, but also set them up for sustained success in the coming years. And let's not forget the history and tradition of the Montreal Canadiens. This franchise, with its 24 Stanley Cup titles, is used to making bold, defining moves. Whether it was trading for legendary players in the past or developing homegrown talent, the Canadiens have always aimed to be at the forefront of the NHL's elite. This offseason, it looks like they're once again trying to follow that tradition, making calculated and aggressive moves to build a team capable of competing at the highest level. Every move they make is driven by a desire to bring another Stanley Cup to Montreal, and fans are eager to see how this all unfolds. Now, as we look ahead, the question remains, will the Canadiens be able to close the deal for Kyrou? It's a complex dance involving negotiations, cap considerations, and the willingness of all parties to make sacrifices. But if Montreal can pull it off, it would be a game changer. It would send a message to the league that the Canadiens are serious about returning to their former glory, that they're willing to do whatever it takes to compete with the best. And of course, all of this is happening in the context of a broader NHL landscape that's more competitive than ever. The Atlantic Division, in particular, has become a battleground for serious contenders. Teams like the Boston Bruins, Tampa Bay Lightning, and Toronto Maple Leafs are all loaded with talent and hungry for another playoff run. For Montreal, these moves are about catching up, about re-establishing themselves as a team that can not only make the playoffs but go deep into the postseason. They're trying to do what the Canadiens have always done: adapt, evolve, and strike at the right moment. And speaking of history, it's worth remembering that the Canadiens have a storied past of resilience and innovation. From the legendary punch line of the 1940s to the dominant teams of the 1970s, Montreal has always been a franchise that sets the bar high. This offseason looks like a continuation of that tradition, a team willing to take risks, make bold trades, and push forward with a clear vision to bring another Stanley Cup to the city of Montreal. So fans, what do you think? Are the Canadiens making the right moves? Do you believe they can land Kyrou and complete this puzzle? The excitement is real, and the next few weeks will be crucial. The NHL is a league of surprises, and Montreal's front office seems determined to keep us on the edge of our seats. Whether it's a blockbuster trade or a surprise signing, one thing is for sure: the Canadiens are back in the conversation, and they're not done yet. The future is bright, and the possibilities are endless. Pause here just for a second. If you want the YouTube algorithm to keep recommending the latest Montreal Canadiens news to you, it's super important that you leave a like on this video. Go ahead, it's quick and it makes a big difference. Thank you. Now let us continue with the big reveal. And so, as we wrap up today's deep dive into the Canadiens' offseason strategy, it's clear that Montreal is embracing its identity as a team that's willing to shake things up. Whether it's through trades, signings, or bold negotiations, they're signaling that they're back in the hunt. The fans, the city, and the franchise itself all have high hopes. The road to another Stanley Cup isn't easy. It's paved with tough decisions, strategic moves, and sometimes a little bit of luck. But if there's any team that can turn the tide and surprise everyone, it's the Montreal Canadiens. And now, Montreal Canadiens fans, I want to hear from you. What's your take on this? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your opinion matters so much to us and to the Montreal Canadiens. And don't forget, I'll be back soon with more updates, so stay tuned for the latest Montreal Canadiens news. The off-season is just heating up, and the best is yet to come. Thanks for sticking with us, and as always, go Habs.